Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle, and welcome to our first of, I hope, many food chemistry challenges. Today we're going to do two different labs, one called stained glass sugar and another one called sugar towers. Now this is going to have a warning with it. We need to have parent supervision for this. So make sure that when you start this that you have parent permission and that they are to help you throughout the process. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Daisha92 or check out my website at daishajones.com. Today we're very excited to have two guests with us. First of all, my son-in-law, who is getting ready to graduate from pharmacy school in just a few weeks, Nick McGuire, and then our taste tester, Oliver McGuire. So sugar glass, also called candy glass, edible glass, and breakaway glass, is a very brittle, transparent form of sugar that is used to simulate glass in movies, in photographs, and plays. And the reason they do that is just much less likely to cause injuries than real glass. And it breaks convincingly. Please understand, I know that that is true because we have broken several of these in the last 2 days. So it makes an excellent choice for stunts, but it's also quite delicious. So let me share how we did this. I'm going to move there in our house yesterday and today. So the first thing is we want to make sure that you have the right ingredients for this. So you're going to need sugar or sucrose, light corn syrup or glucose, cream of tartar, and food coloring. This was my setup near the stove. So I had my food coloring, I had a measuring cup, I had a food thermometer. This is the actual ingredients and amounts of ingredients that you're going to need. So take a look at that. Make sure that you are actually using just what you need, not too much, not too little. You need these exact amounts. And you're going to put them into a saucepan and then heat it. So while it's heating, I want you to stir very slowly until it boils. And then once it starts to boil, you're just going to keep it on the heat until it reaches 300 to 310 degrees. So here you can see Nick stirring the ingredients, and it hasn't boiled yet. Once it starts to boil, you're going to have your food thermometer, candy thermometer in there, and you're going to just let it boil. Now, we had to turn our heat up several times to get it to between 300 and 310 degrees. So keep a look on that and don't walk away from the stove because we don't want it to burn. Once it gets into the discoloration stage, you've passed the point of no return for this project. It does tend to splatter, so be careful for that. When we were using our spoon, once it started to get hotter, we used a mitt so our hand didn't get too hot and we didn't get splattered on. It does take a while. So our entire heating process took about 20 minutes. We did realize though, if we had turned up the gas a little bit, it might not have taken so long, but that's a learning process and I'm sure that you'll learn that too. Remember though, an adult needs to help with this process. You're going to put it into a tin pan that has been sprayed when finished. If you'll notice, we have a few little bubbles here. You can also hear my grandson Oliver saying that it looked like rain because as it was pouring in there, it had the sound of rain, and we had had a storm the night before, so he pretty much thought it was a rainstorm in a pan. Now we're dropping food coloring into the pan. So Oliver is dropping a few drops. He wanted to pour a lot of it in there, so I had to sort of help with that, because we didn't want it completely filled with color. We wanted there to be some clear spaces in there. Only a few drops of each color are necessary. Now, depending on what you were going to use this for, determines what colors you can use. This was our first try, so we just used the 4 colors that we had, and notice that when we blended those together, it turned into different colors. This was our finished product. I'm pretty excited about it. Oliver said it looked like an ocean, and that's obviously pretty appropriate for Earth Week. And yesterday we talked about water. He also said that it looked like a scene from Finding Nemo, which really made me happy because we are trying to replicate glass or scenes that could be used in movies. And he absolutely loved it. So obviously we're not going to give our grandson pure sugar all the time, but we let him break off just a small piece and he got to lick it several times, and he thought that was pretty interesting. So now it's your turn for another challenge, and this is a sugar tower challenge. I will again ask you to make sure you have parent permission and that they're watching you while you do this. Now, we're not going to get as hot as the stove, up to 300 degrees, but we still want to make sure that someone's watching and helping with this. So I'm going to help you set it up, but then I'm going to leave out the last step so that you can see your reveal for the first time. If I actually do the last step with you, it's not as fun. So here are the things you're going to need. Just take a look at that. I happen to have test tubes at my house because I do a lot of science. But if you didn't have test tubes, a long, thin vase might work, just something that is cylindrical. Or if you have some really fat milkshake straws, they should work. So this is how my setup looked when we first started. I put out my 4 glasses. I had the test tubes. The ones in the back are more for show. Those were ones that I did after this whole thing was over, just to play around a little bit. So I added 8 ounces of hot tap water to each cup, and then I added food color drops. Now, we want to make sure that we stick with the directions. So 8 ounces is what you need. I did 3 drops of color for each cup, and I did it in the order of blue, yellow, red, and green. That's going to be important because we're now going to add sugar to those colors. And each cup has a different amount of sugar. So we had 2 tablespoons for blue, 4 for yellow, 6 for red, and 8 for green. Now, just thinking about that now, which one would be heavier? Which one would be lighter? Start thinking about what your hypothesis is, and then we'll see if that happens. So after we've added the tablespoons of sugar, that's when mom or dad or an older brother or sister or whoever you live with are going to need to help, because we're going to have to now super saturate that sugar. And the way we're going to do that is to heat it up. You may have noticed that your first 2 colors, the sugar dissolved pretty quickly because there wasn't as much. But as we got to the last 2 with 6 and 8 tablespoons, the sugar wasn't dissolving as quickly. So you're going to heat your cups in the microwave for about 20 seconds at a time. And I do encourage you only 20 seconds at a time. And then I need you to keep stirring until the last one is completely dissolved. In full transparency, this took us about 3 minutes total, stopping every 20 seconds and doing a little stirring. So now I'm not going to show you how I did this. I will show you a picture in just a moment of what it looks like. But you're going to start to add the sugar to your test tube or your small vase by using a pipette, a syringe, or if you don't have any of that, right now we couldn't get out, I used a straw, and I would pull some of the liquid up in the straw. I put the straw into the container, put my finger on top and pulled it up, and I added the color into my test tube. Now, I will tell you for this first try, you want to add the color that has the most dissolved sugar. So if you follow the directions for our first attempt, you'll notice that green would have the most dissolved sugar, because we put the most sugar in there. And then you're just going to keep adding. So I will give you a quick look at what mine looks like, and then say, if it works, then try some different liquids, different amounts of water, maybe different types of sugar. Would salt also work? If it didn't work, that is absolutely okay. As the Mythbusters say, fail means first attempt in learning. Try something again. When I did it the first time, the colors mixed a little bit between the green and the orange, but as more became added, it got better, and they would stay and hold their shape just a little bit better. So what experiment do you want to devise for the kitchen? What can you do in a safe environment that would be fun to test out? And I will see you guys next Wednesday for another chemistry or food chemistry challenge. I hope you had fun today. I can't wait to see what you came up with. Please tag me on Twitter at DACIA92 so I can see what you did in the kitchen. I will see you next week.